At 5:47 a.m. on August 8, 1941, 24-year-old Ludmila Pavlichenko crouched behind a pile of rubble in Belaya Tserkov, Ukraine, watching a German sniper take aim at a Soviet soldier just 40 meters to her left. She had been in the Red Army for 4 months, had 0 confirmed kills, and didn't yet know she would eventually rack up 309. The Wehrmacht had sent 3 full divisions toward Odessa, 150,000 soldiers advancing, while the Soviets were outnumbered 3-1. Ludmila had volunteered for sniper duty in a unit losing people faster than they could train replacements. She had been awake for almost a full day. No sleep, no food, just her Mosin Nagant rifle, 40 rounds of ammunition, and a rage born from loss. 11 days earlier, her university in Kyiv had been bombed. 73 students killed. Her professor, Dr. Vulov, crushed under rubble. Her best friend Natasha burned alive inside the library. Ludmila enlisted the next morning. The recruiting officer tried to send her to a medical unit. Women, he said, belonged with bandages, not rifles. She told him she'd been shooting since she was 14, top scores in youth competitions. He laughed until she put 5 rounds through the center of a fence post at 100 meters. He stopped laughing and assigned her to the 25th Rifle Division as a sniper. 4 months later, she was lying in ruins, watching Germans kill her comrades while she hadn't taken a single shot. The German sniper was 280 meters away, tucked behind a shattered farmhouse wall. Through a thin crack, she could see the edge of his helmet as he tracked his target. Sergeant Dmitry Kravchenko, a 32-year-old father of 2 who had shared his bread with her after she'd gone 18 hours without food. He didn't know death was seconds away. Ludmila lifted her rifle. Her hands were steady. Her breath slowed. Her instructor's voice echoed in her mind. Don't think about killing. Think about solving a problem. Distance, wind, timing. Math, not murder. 280 meters. Light crosswind. Target still. She adjusted, settled the sights on that thin crack in the wall, and touched the trigger. This was the moment that would decide whether she was a real soldier or a student pretending to be one. She squeezed. The rifle kicked hard. The crack of the shot rolled through the battlefield. Through the scope, she saw the German's helmet snap back and vanish. Kravchenko froze, confused, unaware he'd just survived. Ludmila chambered another round and scanned for movement. Nothing. Silence. Her first kill. She felt no guilt, no pride, just one instinctive thought. Where's the next one? That was August 8th, 1941. By May of the next year, that same young woman would have 309 confirmed kills, including 36 enemy snipers, becoming the deadliest female sniper in history. And she would survive by doing something the Soviet manual strictly forbade. She used herself as bait. The first sniper Ludmila ever lost was Lieutenant Anna Morozova on August 19, 1941. Morozova had 8 months of sniper experience, 47 confirmed kills, disciplined, precise, everything the Soviet doctrine demanded. The rules were simple: never expose yourself, always stay concealed, fire once, relocate immediately, never stay in one position more than 30 minutes, never take more than 3 shots from the same spot, and always have a clean escape route. Morozova followed every rule perfectly. She set up in a bombed-out apartment building, 3rd floor, flawless sight lines. She fired 1 clean shot at a German machine gun crew 320 meters away, then dropped to the 2nd floor, her planned secondary position, and waited 20 minutes. She fired again, killing a German officer at 280 meters. Then she moved toward her final hideout on the ground floor. As she stepped into the stairwell, a single shot punched through her chest. A German sniper had anticipated everything. He had tracked her first shot, predicted her movement pattern, and positioned himself to intercept her exact relocation route. Morozova never saw him. Ludmila was 1 floor below when she heard the shot and the sound of Morozova collapsing. She also heard German voices laughing. They knew they had taken out a Soviet sniper. The shooter was Hans Becker, a Wehrmacht counter-sniper with 89 confirmed kills, a specialist whose job was hunting Soviet snipers exactly like Ludmila. Becker's method was always the same. Let the Soviet sniper fire first, watch the muzzle flash, estimate the position, track the movement after the relocation, and kill them the moment they thought they were safe. Soviet doctrine made his job easy. If you followed the rules, you were predictable. And if you were predictable, you were already dead. The second sniper Ludmila lost was Corporal Viktor Stepanov on August 27th. Stepanov was 19, 6 weeks into sniper duty, 11 confirmed kills, talented but inexperienced. He took position in a drainage ditch 400 meters from German lines. Perfect concealment, ideal shooting angle. He fired at dawn, 2 shots, 2 kills. Germans scattered. After textbook timing, he waited 15 minutes and prepared to move. A German artillery shell detonated directly in his ditch, erasing him instantly. The Germans had calculated his position from muzzle flash alone and called in artillery to saturate the area. Stepanov did everything right and still died because the Germans knew Soviet snipers followed doctrine to the letter. By September, Ludmila had watched 7 Soviet snipers die. Every single one killed not because they were bad shots, but because they were predictable. German counter-sniper teams were too skilled, too trained, too familiar with the Soviet manual. The pattern was always the same. A Soviet sniper sets up, takes a shot, the Germans triangulate, then fire back with a sniper, machine gun, or artillery. The Soviet dies or retreats. The problem wasn't skill. Soviet snipers could shoot. The problem was strategy. Soviet snipers waited for targets, reacted, defended. German snipers initiated, manipulated, hunted. Ludmila realized if she followed the manual, she would die exactly like Morozova, Stepanov, and the others. She needed to flip the battlefield dynamic, stop being prey, become predator. But doing that meant breaking every rule. Concealment was survival. Exposure was death. Soviet doctrine said you must never reveal your position for any reason. Ludmila decided she didn't care. She would deliberately expose a fake position, draw the German sniper into firing first, spot the muzzle flash instantly, and kill him before he realized the bait wasn't real. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It violated everything the manual said, and it was the only tactic the Germans wouldn't expect. She built 2 sniper hides only 4 to 6 meters apart, close enough to switch between them in under 3 seconds. One was a decoy position, a helmet on a stick, a jacket stuffed with straw, anything that resembled a sniper silhouette from 300 meters away. Ludmila hid in the second position completely concealed, scope trained on where a German counter-sniper was most likely to hide. When the German fired at the decoy, his muzzle flash would betray him. She would have 3 or 4 seconds maximum to locate the flash, adjust, aim, and kill him before he realized the decoy wasn't real. If she missed, she would be dead. If she hesitated, she would be dead. If she guessed wrong, she would be dead. She tested the tactic on September 3rd, 1941. At dawn, she placed a helmet in the rubble of her fake nest and hid 5 meters away in her real one. For 45 minutes, nothing happened. She stayed still, muscles burning, eyes watering, insects crawling across her hands. Then, at 6:17 a.m., a German shot cracked across the field. The helmet snapped back. Someone had taken the bait. Ludmila scanned quickly. There, a muzzle flash behind a brick wall 320 meters away. She had seconds. Her crosshairs found the shape. She fired. A body collapsed behind the wall. She didn't wait to confirm. She moved instantly, relocating before the Germans could fire back. Later, she watched 2 German soldiers drag the sniper's body out. Confirmed kill. Her method worked. Over the next 6 weeks, she refined it. Timing, positioning, lighting, angle, bait placement. She studied German behavior with obsessive precision. German snipers preferred 2nd or 3rd floors, avoided open ground-level hides, shot with the sun behind them, and rarely moved during daylight. She weaponized these patterns. Her decoys were placed where elevated German positions could see them. Her real hides were built at ground level with no silhouette. She planned every engagement like a chess match. The decoy was her bait. The German's shot was his first mistake, and her kill shot was checkmate. By October, Ludmila had 78 confirmed kills, 22 of them German snipers. Soldiers began whispering about her. Officers requested her personally. Men who had watched their friends die begged her to hunt the sniper responsible. She had become something new, the hunter of hunters. A lieutenant named Volkov approached Ludmila on October 12th. His platoon had been terrorized by a German sniper for 4 straight days. 11 Soviet soldiers dead, officers, radio men, machine gunners, anyone important. The sniper shot from different angles every morning, never repeating the same position, never leaving a pattern. Volkov's men were so terrified they refused to move in daylight. The entire sector was frozen by one German marksman. Ludmila agreed to take the mission, not because of the vodka Volkov brought, but because she remembered Morozova, Stepanov, and every friend she'd watched die. The German operated near a railway junction. Ludmila spent 2 days observing from 800 meters away, charting the landscape like a surgeon studying anatomy. She mapped sight lines, marked every ruin, counted buildings, measured wind, tracked shadows. The German was brilliant. He shifted positions constantly, shot once, then vanished. 11 possible positions, too many to cover. She needed to force him to reveal himself. She built a decoy that looked like a Soviet officer and placed it in a spot visible from 8 of the likely German hides. Then she positioned herself 12 meters away, concealed, rifle aimed at the most probable location. Dawn arrived. For 40 minutes, nothing happened. Her legs went numb, her back throbbed. She didn't flinch. At 7:11 a.m., a shot rang out. The decoy's helmet spun off. Ludmila instantly scanned. There, a muzzle flash inside a destroyed train car 420 meters away. The German had crawled inside a wrecked boxcar, using it as a bunker. A genius hideout, obscure, unexpected, offering perfect angles and excellent cover. She had 5 seconds before he realized the decoy wasn't human. She sighted the shadow moving inside the boxcar and fired. The figure stumbled, but didn't fall. Wounded, trying to escape. She chambered another round and fired again. This time he dropped. Volkov's men stormed the location minutes later. The sniper lay inside the boxcar with 2 bullet wounds. One through the shoulder, one through the head. His logbook recorded 67 kills. Volkov asked how she knew he'd be in the train car. Ludmila said she didn't. She simply made him fire first, then killed him. Volkov shook his head. "That's not mathematics," he said. "That's insanity." German units soon placed a bounty on her. 100 Reichsmarks at first, then 500, then 1,000. Her name appeared in German radio broadcasts, accusing her of being a myth, a propaganda invention, or a man disguised as a woman. Ludmila heard the reports. She laughed. If the Germans had to convince themselves she didn't exist, that meant she was doing her job. She began leaving calling cards after kills, small bits of ribbon, sometimes a playing card on a dead sniper's chest. Soldiers started calling her the Red Queen. Soviet newspapers loved it. Lady Death, the sniper who hunted other snipers. But Ludmila didn't care about names. She cared that fear made Germans sloppy, and sloppy enemies died easier. Her most legendary duel came on November 7th, 1941. German forces were tightening the noose around Sevastopol. Supplies were low, ammunition rationed, medical kits nearly empty, and one German sniper was dismantling the Soviet command structure 1 bullet at a time. 11 officers killed in 3 days. The entire sector paralyzed. Command summoned Ludmila and gave her 48 hours to eliminate him. If she failed, the line might collapse. She studied the scene like a detective. Every shot the German had taken occurred in a narrow window, between 5:45 and 7:30 a.m., all single fatal hits, all fired from different angles. The German was elite, patient, mobile, unpredictable. She had to be better. Night after night, she walked the ruins with a reconnaissance officer named Boris, studying the terrain, marking sight lines, tracing possible sniper angles. She identified 14 positions with perfect views of the Soviet command post. Too many. She analyzed patterns again. Early morning meant Soviet officers moved in the open, checking defenses during shift changes. German snipers loved exploiting routine. She narrowed it to 3 likely positions: the tower of a destroyed church, the 3rd floor of a collapsed apartment building, and the rooftop of a former school. She needed to force the German to shoot. Not a decoy this time. Herself. She put on a Soviet officer's coat, far too big for her but unmistakably official from a distance. At 5:42 a.m. on November 8th, she walked into the open near the command post. Her rifle was hidden 4 meters away, behind rubble, already aimed at the church tower. She stood exposed, completely exposed. If she guessed wrong, she would die. Instantly. If she guessed right, she would have barely 2 seconds to dive, grab the rifle, find the target, and fire. She stood there for 17 agonizing minutes. Wind cutting through her coat, sweat dripping down her back, every instinct screaming at her to run. Nothing happened. Maybe the German wasn't there. Maybe he saw through the trap. Maybe he'd moved positions. Or maybe he was staring at her through a scope at that exact moment. At 5:59 a.m., the shot finally came. A Mauser round sliced past her head so close it split the air beside her ear. She dove left toward her rifle, hit the ground hard, grabbed the grip, and swung the barrel towards the church tower. She scanned through the scope. There, a shadow moving on the 3rd floor. He was backing into cover. She didn't calculate wind or distance. She didn't breathe. She just fired. Through her scope, she saw the figure jerk and collapse into darkness. She stayed down, scanning, waiting. No movement, no return fire. 10 minutes later, Boris's team stormed the tower. A rifle appeared in the opening. Boris waved his arm. All clear, target down. Inside, they found a German sniper lying dead with a single bullet wound to the chest. His weapon was customized. His diary recorded 94 confirmed kills. Ludmila had just ended his career with a single desperate shot taken under fire. Ludmila became a legend after that duel. Between August 1941 and May 1942, she eliminated 309 German soldiers, 36 of them snipers, 187 officers and NCOs, the rest machine gunners, scouts, artillery spotters, infantry. Every kill was verified by witnesses or recovered documents. Soviet confirmation rules were strict because propaganda demanded proof. Her bait method was used in at least 60 engagements, probably more, but many records from Sevastopol were lost when the city fell. Survivors remembered, though. They remembered the woman who stood in the open to lure German snipers, the one who hunted the hunters. She was wounded 4 separate times. The first was in September 1941, mortar shrapnel slicing her arm and shoulder. Medics bandaged her. She went straight back to the line. The second was a concussion in December, when an artillery shell detonated 10 meters away. She was knocked unconscious for 2 minutes and returned to duty the next day. The third was in February 1942, shrapnel tearing through her leg during an 88 mm barrage. She couldn't walk for a week and forced herself back into combat after 3. The fourth wound was different. A German mortar round exploded near her trench in June 1942, sending fragments into her face. Her cheek ripped open, one eye damaged, jaw fractured. She was rushed to a field hospital bleeding heavily. Doctors saved her life, but Soviet command made a decision. She was too valuable to lose. Her kill count had already reached legendary levels. If she died, morale across multiple fronts would collapse. They pulled her from combat. Ludmila protested, insisting she could still shoot. She begged them to send her back to Sevastopol. Orders were orders. She was going on tour. In August 1942, she was sent to Moscow, awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor her country could give. Newspapers called her Lady Death. Radio hosts praised her as the woman who killed 300 fascists. Propaganda turned her into something superhuman. She hated it. She wanted her rifle, her hideouts, her battlefield. Instead, she got cameras, handshakes, banquets. From Moscow, she was sent to Britain. She met Churchill, who asked her what it felt like to kill so many men. She told him it felt like solving equations, distance, wind, angle. He didn't believe her. She told him she felt tired. He believed that part. Then came the United States. Eleanor Roosevelt invited her personally. To Americans, she was astonishing. A woman who fought on the front lines, a soldier with more kills than any man they'd ever heard of. She spoke at rallies in New York, Chicago, San Francisco. Crowds of thousands showed up. American newspapers called her the most dangerous woman in the world. Some U.S. military officers accused her of being a Soviet invention. She said nothing. U.S. intelligence cross-checked her claims with German casualty reports. The numbers matched. Her kills were real. For 6 exhausting months, she toured the U.S., raising support for a second front in Europe. She became a symbol, an icon of Soviet resistance and female strength. But she despised the fame. She wanted to go back to the war, but Sevastopol had already fallen. There was nothing left to return to except ashes. She came home in early 1943. Soviet command refused to send her back into combat. Instead, they made her an instructor. She taught new snipers. Everything she'd learned, the dual nests, the bait tactics, the psychological games, the way to think like the enemy. Hundreds of students passed through her lessons. Some became elite snipers themselves. The entire Soviet sniper doctrine shifted because of her. By 1944, her methods were fully official. Snipers no longer hid and reacted. They hunted and controlled the battlefield. German casualty rates from sniper fire skyrocketed, and Soviet sniper survival rates rose dramatically. Ludmila's innovation saved lives by the thousands. After the war, she carried the weight of those 309 kills. She always said she never enjoyed killing. She did it because her country was invaded and her friends were dying. She remembered every face she saw through her scope, every one. She lived quietly in Kyiv after the war, working as a historian, raising a son, enduring chronic pain from her wounds. She died on October 10, 1974, at 58 years old. The Soviet Union gave her a hero's funeral. Western media barely mentioned her passing. Cold War politics erased her from history outside the USSR. Inside it, she was a legend. At the Moscow Armed Forces Museum, her Mosin Nagant still sits in a glass case. The scope she calibrated, the stock she carved, the same weapon she used for all 309 kills. Next to it is a photo of her at 24, tired, fierce, unbroken. That expression is her real legacy. Not the propaganda, not the myth. The woman who broke doctrine, rewrote sniper tactics, and survived by turning herself into bait. A soldier who refused to follow rules that got people killed. A soldier who forced the enemy to fear her. A soldier who changed the battlefield by being unpredictable. And now you know her name. Ludmila Pavlichenko didn't just fight in a war. She changed how wars would be fought forever. Her techniques, her psychology, her refusal to obey doctrines that got people killed, all of it rippled far beyond the ruins of Odessa and Sevastopol. Modern sniper schools around the world teach variations of her methods. The U.S. Marines, the British SAS, the IDF. Each of them uses tactics that trace back to the woman the Germans once called the Red Queen. They don't put her name in the manuals, but her fingerprints are there in every lesson about counter-sniper traps, decoy work, dual nests, and bait-and-kill tactics. She was decades ahead of her time. She proved that innovation wins battles, even when you're outgunned, outnumbered, and outmatched. She proved that skill can beat experience. She proved that fear can be a weapon. And she learned to wield it better than the men who hunted her. But behind all the confirmed kills and battlefield genius was a human being carrying wounds no metal could heal. She spent her final years quietly, her scars hidden, her nightmares unspoken. The world remembers her kill count. It rarely remembers the cost. Yet, This is why her story matters. Because she wasn't a symbol or a myth. She wasn't a propaganda poster. She wasn't Lady Death. She was a 24-year-old history student who picked up a rifle because her university was bombed. Her friends were killed, and no one else was coming to save them. She didn't choose war. War chose her. And she met it with a courage the world still struggles to explain. Her story reminds us that heroes aren't born. They're built out of loss, out of anger, out of impossible choices. And sometimes the most dangerous soldier on the battlefield isn't the one with the biggest gun. It's the one who refuses to die on anyone else's terms. If Ludmila Pavlichenko's story moved you, hit that like button so YouTube knows people still care about forgotten warriors like her. Subscribe if you want more stories, the history books left behind. And drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. Our community runs from Kyiv to California, from military historians to the grandchildren of veterans. You're not just viewing a video, you're keeping memories alive. Thanks for being here.